What up, brothers? It's Clipper King returning for a review on a brand new figure, or a figure I only got 2 days ago. As you can see, it's the Avengers version of Thor. Got him posed up. You know how I do the new reviews. Give you about 5 or 6 cheeky little posers. Tell you my total thoughts on the figure, from his likeness to his costume to his extras, his articulation. Talk about the packaging, talk about the source material. We'll get some scores. Like I said in the last video, I'm going to keep with the scoring system simply because I think it brings each chapter to an end, and also a couple of guys actually picked up on the fact that I'd stopped doing the scores. I know some people aren't interested in them, but now I know that there are a few that are. So, like I normally do, I'll show you the pose. Pretty much got him. I'm going to use the new Goblin stand like I always do. Could do with fucking that off and putting like a Clipper King plaque on front of that, because I'm using this stand more and more, but it does everything I want it to. Allows me to put it in pose like that, pretty much leaping off a ledge or getting the hammer to tow him in a flying style pose like he does. Got him pretty spread. If I look at it front side, bit of a dip on his head, his arms looking pretty good and better articulated than I expected. So yeah, the cape just drooped off to one side. I will pick up on the cape when I get to the costume section. Like I said, I will cover it. I like to show you the pose first because I know some people do watch these videos, don't give a shit what I'm saying, don't care at all about the figure, just want to check out some poses they can take back and add to their own collection. So if that's what they want to do, so be it. So first, while he's in this pose, I will talk about the source material. As you know, The Avengers was the biggest money film of last summer, and probably rightly so. It covered a wide demographic, young to the old, male, female, covered everybody, and were a really good film, better than I expected, because I thought they were going to cram all the characters in, but they didn't. They all get them pretty good roles. Thor did appear in 2 of my favourite scenes in the movie. The first one when he basically says, I know he's a shit cunt, old Loki, but at the end of the day, he's my brother. And they said, well, he's just killed 80 odd people. You're like, well, yeah, he's adopted. I just thought that were quite funny from him. And also the scene where they just jump off front of that fucking long snake thing and Hulk twats him side of head and sends him flying across that station. I thought that were a good scene as well. Had me giggling. So, yeah. I did like Thor the movie, but obviously this is a representation of the Avengers version, and I do prefer this version, I'll say it first, although I did like the Thor movie. So, right, I'm gonna tighten up the scores a little bit, for the simple reason is I'm finding that I'm giving everything 4s and 5s, which really makes 1, 2 and 3 really pointless. So I'm going to downgrade my scores a little bit. So you might find that figures are scoring less than they used to do, but that also tells you that anything in the 30s is an awesome must-own figure, or what I would consider a classic. So what I'm going to say on the source material, I think it were an awesome film. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, one of my favourite films of last year. Is it an all-time classic? I'm not 100% sure, because I think films like this are very quickly superseded. Whereas a film such as probably Scarface, films like Rocky in my mind, films like Raging Bull, I think they're timeless. So that, for me, it would have to be timeless to be getting a 5 now on source material. But like I said, I did really enjoy this film, and I did think he would played a good part in it. So I am still going to give it a 4 out of 5. I'm going to take the figure out of the way, and I'll tell you about the box. Right, I'll quickly cover the box. I know, like I've said in the last few reviews, I know people aren't really interested in the packaging, or not everybody, but there will be a few out there that are. And there'll also be people out there who haven't got this figure and possibly can't even afford this figure. So it is nice to show them everything that that they could get if they were to save up and get these figures. Namely, the younger collectors. That's what I'm basically aiming it at. So I do want to show everything that a figure like this brings and where your money does go. So it's just a slipcover box, uniform to the rest of the Avengers figures. Pretty much only the artwork on the front and a wrap round to that side. Got the chrome effect Thor's hammer, Chrome Effect Avengers, and then the glossed A symbol. Then on top, as you bring it down, you see, got the Thor wording, like all the Avengers figures have so far. So yeah, pretty standard. I would normally give a slipcover a 3, only because I think these would all display nicely together if you had a shop or a store, or if you displayed in front of your boxes like I know a few people do. Then I think it is a good idea that they keep them all uniform, which is what they have done so far, just using different coloured fronts. It's always monochrome but in different colours. So I do like that about it. So I have bumped up the score to 4 out of 5. And also obviously inside you get the clamshells that really hold the packaging well, and there's no need for any twist ties. Only one thing with this to look out for is when it's packaged, there's actually a cut through to the next tray down which houses his cape. His cape does stay attached on this one, not like the other one where it were in the lid of the shoebox on the last Thor figure. So yeah, it does go through, so be careful when you're removing the figure, because you're also dragging the cape through from behind him, sort of thing. That makes sense if you had the figure. But yeah, like I said, it would normally be a 3 for a normal slipcover, but I am giving it a 4 because of its uniform design to the other Avengers figures. Facial likeness, and as you can see, I've changed up the pose. Got the figure back in, I'm looking sweet. I'll go over the pose first, then I'll go up and tell you my likes and dislikes about the face. I've got him pretty much two-handed stance with the hammer, kind of baseball batter, getting ready to hit sort of pose, and then with the legs spread, ready to rotate and smack out coming towards him. The cape I've sort of got pulled round to one side, so if I pull away you can see it's sweeping around that side. The way it's held in place because I've got it sort of got the stand sort of hooked up behind, which brings the cape round. So that's the pose I've gone for there. I'll give you plenty of look around it while I'm talking. So yeah, that's pose number 2. Facial likeness. I've got to say, I saw the photos, particularly the OMG photos that came out on release in Hong Kong, and I were pretty much blown away. Not only was it so much better than the first release of Thor, it was also better than the prototype shots they showed us. I think the expression is just off enough to not be too neutral. I think the air sculpt is amazing and is nice and soft, so it's not ragging at his cape all the time. Look at that, that's how easy his hair moves. So what you would think would be sharp sculpt edges is not. You can see how I prefer it to be sculpted than real hair. But this one, it does what you want it to do, because it sort of, like I say, it moulds around his shoulder and that, so you can still move the head around. Also on the hair, I like that now you don't get the sort of big join that we had before for the different hair sculpts. Although if you look at that one, there is sort of a break in the sculpt there, but because the section of hair comes down there, you can see it's sort of the fringe of his hair sort of pulled over to that side. So I do like the hair sculpt, and also the golden look about his hair I think makes it look really natural. It's not the light yellow blonde that the original Thor figure had, which made that look a little bit toyish, if I'm honest. Again, it blends nice down from his sideburns down into his beard or his stubble, and round to his tash and that. I just think it's really nice air sculpt, which in turn sets off the facial sculpt fucking awesomely. So I think it is a dead ringer for Chris Hemsworth, if I'm honest. It's so much better than the first one, and like I said, they've done something wrong with the prototype shots, and I'm not going to cut to the prototype shot. We've all seen it, but I think the production, it was one of those figures that when it came out, it was just so much better than what we were expecting, and I think most people would agree with that. Again, when I said the expression is just off being too neutral, I think it's just, I don't know if it's something in the slight dip in his eyebrows or the slightly open mouth, I don't know. It just gives it a little bit more intention, other than some of the sculpts that we've had where there's just a really vacant look. So yeah, I'm buzzing about the sculpt. I am going to give it a 5 out of 5, and it was pretty easy 5 out of 5. I think of the Avengers that we've had so far, I mean, I've not seen Black Widow, I'll be honest, but the other ones, I think it's definitely up there with them all, because I think they are all pretty good. In fact, this one might even be the best of the lot. But I would have to stand them all together to make that bold statement. But I am more than happy with it, I will say. Just try and show you from slightly below. You can see his eyes have got a wet look to them. You can see now his mouth is slightly more open. Yeah, and I do like it. And like I said, stroke of genius with the hair sculpt. I really, really like that, because if the hair didn't work, then I don't think anything else would have worked on the figure. Again, he's got the really regal look about him as well, but I think that might be more down to his outfit, which we'll roll onto in a minute. But like I say, that's your second pose, brothers. Hope you like it. I'm going to put a slight cut in there and we'll move on. Quick interlude before I do move on to the next section. I thought to better explain what I've just been saying about the hair sculpt would be to take the hair off and show you around it. Like I said, it's got a lion look about it with a flowing mane. It does look excellent. As you can see, it's got plenty of weight to it. It's not slick to his head. It's got the curls in it, the awesome sculpt all the way around. And it's sort of positioned nicely around his face. Got the nice parting, like I say, and then the strand hanging down here kind of thing. The hair all does feel soft as well. Not like it's going to rip or all like that, but pliable, should we say. And that is what I like. If you look inside, it's got these sections just sort of like ear and ear, and what that is another layer of hair, which gives the hair sort of body and bulk, but also then where it lays against his cape, so sort of across his shoulder here, look, it's all nice and soft. It's not sharp as fuck and stiff, so as you're turning it, it's not ragging at your cape and like picking thread off your cape. Really, really nice touch, and that's why Hot Toys are still leading the pack for my money. So yeah, I do like that, and like I said, it just gives it that look, so when you are changing its position, that will move with you and do what you want it to do. Another good thing I like about this being so soft is if you've had this figure in a position for any length of time, so say if you got it positioned and his hair was up like that, what's going to happen is that hair is going to stay in that position like that, and then you change position, it'll look like he's got his hair, like he's, oh fuck, it'll look like he's got bedhead. But because it's soft and pliable, little tip for you, all you would need to do is, when you repose it, take the head off, cup of red hot water, dip it back in, take it out, dry it, and then put the head on, because that'll go soft again, and then it will apply to the new pose that you've just put it in. And the reason I mention that is because it feels very similar to the, the cowl section of that Batman figure. So when it's posed like that, it'll hang down. Now if I put his arms up, it will bend the spikes of the cowl section. All you need to do between poses, dip it in hot water, dry it, repose it, and then the plastic will sculpt back to its original shape. So just a little interlude to sort of express what I really liked about this head sculpt and hair sculpt as well. Moving on to outfit, and this might take some time and it might be a couple of poses just in this section. But just to describe the pose I've gone for first, as you can see, his arm's out, got him sort of dipped with his left arm, he's holding his cape out of the way sort of thing, he's got it rucked under his arm, got his legs spread again, calling the hammer back to him. So at some point it would be a case of back into his hand. That's the pose I've gone for. Show you from the side. Got him nice spread again. Goblin Stan, thank you very much. You are a poser's best friend. Yep, he's got that pose. Right, moving on. Outfit. I'm going to try and tell you what I like and dislike about it, but also refer back to the Thor figure from the original film. Right, where do I start? We'll start at the bottom and work his way up, because I might need to repose it in a minute to talk about the cape. Right, firstly, boots are an improvement. The sculpt altogether is better. They use the same technique with the split section, and obviously it will open up when it's spread like that. The lower foot is weathered, has got a dirty look about it, which I do like, and I think his boots do look cooler altogether. The idea with the boot, obviously you can see the break there. That's so that you can still get a good dip on his leg like that. If it were a solid boot, you'd never be able to get him in a position like that. Now the Hawkeye had a solid boot, and I think Nick Fury did, yeah, and Captain America did. I'm just looking at him now. So you would never get him in a pose anywhere like that. And I don't think the break in the ankle is too obvious, because it then leads up to this awesome shin guard, which is well sculpted and nice and soft, so you still got some bit of movement through that as well. I do like that. So yeah, like I said, the boot on the old Thor was quite basic looking. It did resemble the film really well, but I just prefer it on this one. Moving up, one of the things I hated about the first version of Thor was the cheap feeling trousers. You got like a shell suit material, where this has got like a leather feel to sort of this section, then a break into like a really fine plastic down there, and then like this sort of lipped area here with a red stripe, and then round back into like a soft blue leather. It does pose well, it is tailored awesomely, it does move well. And also, they didn't put that stupid plastic fucking ring around his thigh like they did on the first suit. Like I said, I know Hot Toys are stuck because they've got to sort of copy the film, but it was just a pisser, because every time you pose it, it keeps slipping down towards his knee, and you have to keep fucking twisting it back up. Now, this one ain't got it, so improvement there. Moving up to his armoured chest section. Now, I'll try and describe the medias they've used. It's like a soft playable plastic here and here, so you can't, as you turn it and move, that does move nice and easy. The upper section gets a little bit harder. If I show you, there is a bit of movement, but not a lot. So obviously, I wouldn't think you'd get an ab crunch through it. It's a bit hard than that. But the nice bit is, it's not all that this time, what it were on the first one. Underneath here, you've got the same sort of fine plastic here that you've got running down the trouser here, so there is movement into it, and it does help the articulation better than I thought it would. So yeah, again, moving up, you are, because of how the armour goes around his neck area, be very careful with the head sculpt, because you don't want to be sort of dragging it against these sharp sections sort of in here and at the other side, and either trapping the air and ripping it, or dragging it along his chin and sort of scratching the paintwork off the face. The cape is attached this time inside there, and I don't think it's removable, which is good, because the old one used to fall out quite regular. So again, you ain't got the annoyance of that. And I will get back to cape in a minute. What I will talk about is armoured section. Where the armoured section on the first one was sort of an afterthought, this one, it's pretty much designed into the suit, because you do get the definition of like the I think that's the deltoid muscle, the shoulder, cannonball shoulder kind of thing, the tricep and the biceps in it, and then the forearm muscle going into the elbow. Does give it a really nice sculpted look, and it makes you keep realising that he's a bad motherfucker. He's got muscle, he's got arms under there sort of thing, and I do like that about it. And again, it is really soft and pliable, and that part doesn't, it does hinder the articulation, but not as much as I expected it to. So yeah, I do think that's a definite improvement over the first one. And another thing as well, I think if you were to take this upper body off, I think both these sections, the arms, will be able to remove. So if you wanted imposed without that, I think it would be doable. But I don't know if I'm going to try it, because I don't like the look enough without that on. And I think you might have to split this section somewhere around the back, like you had to on the first one. So yeah, proper bastard about this suit. Sometimes when you change the hands, because that is sort of a cloth section, the red bit, and then it's just a gauntlet, very similar to the Batman gauntlet there. Sometimes it pulls down when you're changing the hands, and then you've got to fucking shuffle it right back up to get the next hand in, which again, if you're swapping out hands, it becomes a bit of a pisser. but it does look good. It looks better than the first one. This is quite hard, this section, and I said these don't feel like they're going to split. They are well done. So, really nice look, but it is a bit of annoyance when you're changing the hands. Another thing, I did pull it off to sort of rewrap. I actually did it on the other one. I pulled that off, and then the cotton section underneath came off as well, and it were a bitch to get back on because you have to like itch it up and like get some tweezers and sort of pull it into place. So I recommend if you don't have to do that, then don't, because it is more fucking hassle than it's worth, to be honest. So what else was I gonna say? I forget now. But yeah, the suit in general, the representation is fucking awesome. It's bang on. But it does hinder the articulation a little bit. So I'm going to mention the cape and then I'm going to score it. So if I just put a short pause here, I'll get it into a different pose where we can see the cape. Before I get him turned and I talk about the cape, I just want to show you another thing. Because these are different section pieces, it is a loose piece that basically tucks under. If you think about this section as a waistcoat, and then this would be like a sleeve section underneath. So if I was to, I'll put it into a pose where it's pretty extreme. I can't really do it left-handed, so I'll put a short pause in there. So now his arm is all the way out outside of him, like that. And look, that's what I mean. This armoured section, it sort of pulls out from inside the waistcoat arm, and then underneath it's got like a white, probably a white protective vest to stop this rubbing on the body. But that, because it's pliable, when you put the arm back in, back down should I say, you would then have to tuck these bits back inside the waistcoat area, and all you would do is put it straight, tuck it in, and then turn it until it lays flat to the body on the inside of this section. I hope that makes sense. It would be a bastard for me to show you because I won't be able to do it left-handed, but it is easy to do. Right, and finally we'll get to his cape. As you can see, when it comes out of the box, it is pretty much pleated where you would want it to be. Now it's sort of ironed in to sort of stripe sections there, and then it's made into like a V section there, there, and there. Hot Toys have done a good job of that. There's just certain points where it don't lay right. Sort of there, it would need, to make it perfect, 100% perfect, you would sort of need to fold it back a touch and iron it yourself there. Now, I would never put a metal steam iron on any 1/6 clothing because we assume that the materials we're familiar with, but we don't know that for sure. So I certainly wouldn't do it. What I would use is steam. I've showed you all before our steam shirts and other various things. The hot water on plastics is always a good idea because it's never going to melt them, but it's going to make them soft enough to do what you want with them. Now with these capes, when I took this out of the box, what I did is stood Thor up, boiled the kettle behind him, held the underside of the cape and sort of steamed it. Let the steam run through it. Obviously the condensation goes onto the back of Thor's outfit, but it won't hurt him. Put a tea towel around him if you're nervous, but what it will do is it'll pull all the creases out of the under section because it is a double layered cape. Now that is one of my problems with the cape. For the scale, I don't think it needs to be double layered personally. What I would have preferred is to have had it look like that with no underlayer, because the underlayer is supposed to be flat, but it ain't, because when they've ironed it into that position, obviously it presses through and it irons the underside, so you do get like a pleat through that, which I don't particularly want. What I would have preferred if it were a single ply cape or single layered cape, put like that, and then down these sides and along the bottom, sort of an hemmed wire inside like the Superman cape, because it would make it look more realistic, because it would only be one layer, and then it would be poseable. So if you were to pose him however you choose, I know it's a shit pose, but you would be able to put bends in that and pull the cape all out and have it sort of draped like that, like he's in the wind, or looking like, sort of get your bends in and have the cape up, sort of doing things like that. That is what I would prefer. But Hot Toys always seem to be reluctant to use wired capes. I don't know what reason. I know some people don't like them. people just prefer to have it hang there. Same with the Batman capes. I personally, because I like to pose the figure, I think a cape, especially if it's wired, is a good way of showing motion through the figure. So the representation of the costume to the movie is excellent, and I would normally give it a 5, but like I said, I'm tightening up on these scores, and because the outfit does hinder the figure, the articulation, it is a little bit annoying swapping out the hands, I am going to deduct it. I wouldn't have normally have done this, I'll be honest. I would have given that a straight 5 because of how good it looks, but like I said, I'm making it too easy for these figures to get good scores, so I'm going to knock it down to a 4 out of 5. Now let's get it back in a proper pose. And now on to articulation. Show you the pose first. Pretty nice one. Again, in motion. Got the hammer up, ready to come down on somebody or something. Yep, like that. Right, let's talk about articulation. When we saw this figure, if you're like me, you were thinking, going to be shit to articulate, not going to get his arms anywhere near above his shoulders, not going to be able to pull them that far away from him because that's going to be hard rubber on his sleeve. His body, his torso is not going to move at all. It's going to be encased inside that armour, and his legs are probably going to be fiddly because of the boots. Now, I was pleasantly surprised when I took this out because the legs feel as loose as any true type I've felt. They do pose really well. The trousers and the boots don't hinder the articulation at all, which is good, because like I say, if you're limited on the upper body, then you need good articulation on the lower body to sort of compromise the poses you can do. Moving up, the waist will rotate, and it will rotate really nicely because like I said, this section of the outfit is soft, so it will swivel and bend. I could probably twist that a little bit more. In fact, I might try that in a minute. And then the chest, obviously there's nothing really going on in this section, so the arms really won't come together, and there's no crunch section through the body. The head does move freely because the hair doesn't hinder it, which were a nice surprise because I thought long-haired sculpts, it's not going to do shit all this. I thought it's pretty much going to be a statue style figure. Now, as you can see with the pose I've showed you, that's not the case because it will do most things. These fins that sort of, if you look at that, and the sort of underneath the cape, that does stop the arm going upright. Now, if that wasn't there, and I dare say you could shave that down, the arm would go upright. Now, as I've got that, the arm is pretty upright enough for me. You could possibly go a little bit further, but to there, it's done that really easy. And then again, like I said, the hands are a bit of a bitch to swap in and out, but because of the cotton section there and there, but once they're on, they do hold nice and they do move freely. And I will say, up to this point, I have changed the hands about altogether probably 6 times and not even looked like breaking an ankle, a wrist peg yet, which is always a treat because I go through wrist pegs like a fucking good one. You can believe that. Like I said, I think that's a nice pose. A lot of figures won't do that, so I was pleasantly surprised. Before I even scored this, I was thinking that's going to be a 1 or 2 articulation, taking in mind that I was going to sort of mark it down anyway, or would come down further than I'm going to. But I'm going to bump it back up to a 3 because it has got its limitations, like I said, but not as bad as I thought. So like I said, out of 5, I am going to give that a 3, and I do love that pose. And what I'm going to do is, just to try and prove the waist articulation, I'm going to put a slight pause in here, repose it only slightly, sort of bring that leg round to here slightly, and just see what that pose would be like. So just bear with me, I'm going to cut back in here. As you see, I brought that right knee round, so it's got a swivel going on now through its upper body and down. So his chest armour, now if you're looking at the lines coming down, his central chest armour is pretty much going out to the outside of his right thigh. So that is good articulation through that waist section. And like I said, because this is nice and soft and these fins are nice and soft, they don't fuck it up at all. So your pose options are really good on this figure. Like I said, I'm loving that one. Use it if you want. Moving on to accessories and the stuff that the figure brings, which basically, in a few words, is nowhere near enough. not at the price point that I was trying to get sold this figure from the scalping Hong Kong sellers. I will cover that more in the value. But all in all, I think in general this is a theme that's run through all the Avengers figures. None of them have really brought enough. A couple of cheap items, the Chitauri gun that came with Captain America was shit, although with Captain America you did get another head. With this, basically the accessories are the hammer, which is awesome, but so was it on the first one. This one is an improvement. The handle is a lot better and the strap's better. Pretty much same design on the head of the hammer. Nice weighty feel, although sometimes that does flop the arm down, but it's still a nice piece. And then the Tesseract inside the capsule, which again is a nice piece. You would only probably use that if you'd got him stood, having in the pose where he's taking Loki back to Asgard. So without the Loki, that becomes pretty meaningless. You get the instructions, which basically tells you to handle the suit and his head sculpt, his neck with care, which we all know. Spare set of hand pegs. As I said, I've kept my hand pegs intact. Tight fists, which are nice sculpts. I do like the really straining tight fist. Again, it gives the illusion of getting more anger. The spread hands, which again, nice, but we've seen them all before. Nice paintwork on them though. The relaxed hands, which I don't know anybody who really poses anything with relaxed hands, but they are there. We've got the hammer holding left hand, the hammer holding right hand, which is obviously on. And then you get another left hand, which is to sort of hold the hammer out in front of him, kind of thing, as if he's pointing the hammer. But it will also grip his cape, as you can see in that pose. And then you also get the generic stand, modelled by Udzom, looking in his Bane pose, just trying to get in on act on all these videos. I explained on my last collection video on the Ultimate Collector's channel, that is my new Where's Wally figure, so it will pop up in most videos. Free figure, free gift from Wyman at 16 Bruce. Thank you very much, brother. I love it like that. So yeah, that is a Thor stand that he's using. But for the review, I have used the new Goblin stand, as you all know. So at this price point, that figure should either bring another head, another cape, maybe a backdrop, a stand, but then it would look daft because none of the other Avengers had a stand. You could have had two sets of arms, maybe a set that had these sort of sculpted onto the arms, and then a clean set of arms, just something, because this figure, it were getting offered to me in Hong Kong for like £200. I know they're scalper prices, but it's not a basic price, yet we are getting a basic figure. Like I say, the Bane even brings a stand. This one doesn't, so really disappointed. And on the theme of tightening up with my scores, I am only giving it a 2 out of 5, because if a DX is getting 5 out of 5, then why should I give what warrants a 4 or a 3 with a figure like this? It is an awesome looking piece, and like I said, the pose options are pretty good, but the accessories or the stuff that come in the box is nowhere near enough for this price point. Right, moving on to value, having told you what the figure brings. I was offered this figure about 2 months ago by a guy called De Greyman in Hong Kong. A guy who had spent a lot of money with in past and were one of the sellers that I stuck to loyally. Now, when he gave me the price on this figure, it really pissed me off, and you probably remember the stick to your local sellers video I did, which is pretty much what I've done since. Now, on this figure, I didn't buy this from any local seller. I actually bought it from America via eBay, and I paid the same price that I would have done from a local seller. Now you're asking the reason why I didn't buy from a local seller, and the guys I'm going to shout out shortly, well, a simple reason is they'd already sold out of this figure. Now, I asked all of them, can you get hold of me one? And what they said to me is, at the moment, the allocation's gone. If we find a spare, or we can find one for you, we will get you one. And they all told me that. Now the guys I'm going to shout out is Lee Ward from The Good, The Bad and The Robots. Pretty much, I know he's been trolling sites trying to find me this figure simply because I'd missed boat on it. Second guy is Wyman Shin from 16 Bros. Awesome guy, been talking to him all week. And again, asked him if he could get hold of this figure. He's like, sorry Rick, my allotment's gone, or my allotted amount's gone. I can't get hold of you one. If I do, then you can have it. I'll let you know, sort of thing. And also Matt from Toy HQ. Also got to thank Matt because he sent me a little sort of goodie package yesterday, including a t-shirt and a Gotham City manhole cover and some other bits and bobs. He sent me that yesterday, so a massive thanks to Matt from Toy HQ. Also, I wanted this figure from him. Again, it sold out, the pre-orders had gone and couldn't get hold of me one. So you're asking why is the reason I'm shouting them out? For the simple fact is, they've all responded to me. It's as simple as that. I've still bought this figure from America, from a local seller in America, and I've got this figure to England. I've avoided custom charges, and I've got that figure for £160. Now that is your local comic book prices or your local supplier prices. I've saved £40 by waiting about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. Now I'm buzzing with the figure. I'm happy at the price I paid, although I wish there'd have been more that came with it. But the reason I've shouted those guys out is, if they have sold out, talk to them. They're all top blokes. If they ain't got one in store, then you never know. One of the ones that they sold, somebody might have fell on hard times and can't keep up the payment on that figure they've ordered. Let them know you're interested. If they can find you one, they'll let you know. Obviously, the more loyal you are with them, the more loyal they'll be with you. But the reason I've thanked them all is because they've all been awesome with me, and I feel like I owe them at least a thank you for even intending to pick me this figure up. So a massive shout out to all them 3 guys, and I hope they do all see this video, because like I said, I didn't buy it from any one of them, although I would have bought it from any of them had they had it in stock. Another thing is, I did look on Model Zone. It didn't have it in stock again, but when I sent them a message, they never answered me back. So fuck them. I'm saying that my pre-order for my Bane figures with Model Zone, so I just hope that they keep that order up, because if not, I'm going to struggle to get Bane as well. But like I said, massive shout to Lee Ward, Good, The Bad and The Robots, Wyman Shin at 16 Bros, and Matt, I'm not sure on Matt's second name actually, from Toy HQ. All UK sellers, all awesome guys. The value, I paid too much, even at £60. This figure's not worth £160. No way, Jose. But it's the common trend. I would have liked to have paid about £120 for this, but that's never going to happen unless you buy it from a seller and you get a massive discount. But like I said, I bought new and I bought from America and did make sure I avoided the custom charges. So I know I've paid over the odds. So I'm not going to go and say, well, yeah, I got it reasonable. It could have cost me 200, but it's cost me 160. I'm going to score it down still. I think the value on the price I've paid to the what comes with the figure ratio, I've only given that a 3 out of 5, and that were a generous 3 because I was considering giving it a 2 out of 5. But I would say it's a must for the Avengers collector or Marvel collector. It is awesome. It's possibly, I know it's new, so the novelty value is still there. I would say it's my favourite member of the Avengers team I've got so far. I think there's something very regal about it, which I like, and like I said, the fact that I can pose it quite nice, that really does help as well. Overall, I've only given it a 25 out of a possible 35, and now you might be thinking, well, don't give us a shit score and then tell us to get this figure. Like I said, I'm going to start marking these figures down. Unless they really deserve a score, they're not going to get it. So I would say, you pretty much know you want this figure anyway, most of you. And if you ain't got it already, chances are you're trying to get it. So I'm not telling you nothing you don't know. But pretty much agree with what's been said in the reviews I've seen. It is an awesome piece. It is definitely an upgrade on the old Thor figure, and I'm more than happy with it. So that's where the review ends, brothers. I'm just going to say, this is a Clipper King, and I'm out of here.